What's going on, people? It's your man, the White Bee, back once again. So, we got a bit of a different one for you, man, right now. Paddy Pimblett. Obviously, he won at the weekend. I ain't gonna lie. I didn't gamble on it, thank God. But still, if I was gonna gamble on it, I wouldn't have put it on him, man. I don't know. Listen, fair play to him, yeah. He's doing well, but, you know, I don't see nothing there. I just don't. Not that I would particularly see it. I'm not a UFC. I'm not massively into dudes rolling on the floor and whatnot, but as far as rolling on the floor goes, I don't know. I feel like the quality. Well, tell a lie. They've given him a bunch of stiffs, man. That's what they've done. A bunch of 50-year-old stiffs. But before we get to that analysis, let's break out the title here. Conor McSniff, Conor McCoker came out and lost 500 large. Betting on Michael Chandler to KO Paddy Pimblett. Watch this guy here, look. Absolutely sniffled off his chop. Seriously, look at this guy, look. No one, people, let me tell you now, something for free. No one looks at a camera like that, yeah. Like, it's almost like... No one looks at a camera like that unless you're probably... How many grams do you think? Yeah, he might even be an 8 ball deep, to be honest. The vibes here is like... Yeah, he's an 8 ball deep at this point. It's fair to say, conservatively. He's an 8 ball deep. No one looks at a camera like this unless they are an 8 ball deep. Anyway, let's get to the bars from McSniffer.
What's up, everyone? It's the one and only notorious D-O-double-G. Want to wish you all a great fight night tonight and come through with my bet for the night. The fight I'm interested in, Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. I'm going to go with Michael Chandler to win and win by KO. Although Paddy's improved in his last few outings, I still fancy Chandler to do it. Let's go, boys.
So it says here, he didn't actually mention that, but Happy Punch have said he's put 500 large up. You got a bump, man. To be fair, it's probably a stake. The big gambling company, they're putting loads of, like Drake and that. Drake don't lose no money like that. Yeah, what they do is, they just make a number up on their servers, essentially. None of these big celebrities lose money at all. It's like, it's well documented. These gambling companies, whenever you see a celebrity promoting gambling, it's not their money. If anything, they always come out a winner. Drake probably gets paid $500,000 just to post about it. Never mind win or lose. It's not it's fake news, basically. So yeah, McTapper hasn't actually lost 500 large. But if he did lose it, who cares? That's not, well, over time, I guess. But you probably win some. Maybe not. Probably not, actually. If you're betting on specific things like a KO, particularly in the UFC when it can go one of a million ways, right? It can be like submission. What's the other one? Is it just KO and submission? Well, it could be submission or points, or the other guy can win, so it's a myth. Trying to bet on specific outcome, particularly in the UFC. It's a myth anyway, but still, you get the point. Look at Hrgovic. We thought Hrgovic... I didn't bet on it, but... Hrgovic to KO Joyce, why not? That's obvious. Oops. Anyway, so Conor McTapper put that out. And Paddy Pimblett, after his fight, after his victory, he came out airing out the little sniffer lizard. Conor McSniff, here we go.
We know that Conor McGregor tweeted saying he had his eye on this fight.
Oh, yeah? He said he put a bet on Chandler by knockout. What now, Conor? Hey? Should have mentioned him in the cage, you little lizard. Thought you would have backed your own, lads, you know what I mean? Irish and Scouse. Thought you would have backed your own. If you're coming back, lad, let's do it. Wembley, Croke Park, I'll mufti you as well.
There you go. Well, it was Michael Chandler that was lined up to face him after they'd done tough, so that kind of puts you in a position where, I don't know, we could get excited about this one.
Yeah, you could get excited about that. You could do that in Wembley. Me and Conor sells Wembley out, sells Anfield out, sells Croke Park out. Know what I mean? But...
Yeah. And to be fair to Paddy, he missed a play there. After that win, even though actually, I mean, I expected Chandler to win. I don't watch this. I don't know what's going on. I just saw Chandler's name. I think Paddy's no good. I don't know why I think that. I can't break it down for you. I just don't see. He probably does. You have to give him credit. He does things. He must be doing something right. Whether Chandler's 45-year-old or not, he must be doing something right. Yeah, because if I got in there, you know what I mean? He must be doing something right, obviously. I don't think he's got a chance at the top of the game, though, but I've been saying that for a while. He had some stinkers. He lost some fights. Can't remember the guys' names, but he lost some fights. And Dana's kind of hanging out the back of Paddy. The UFC's fell off, to be fair, and they're propping Paddy up. Because who else they got in terms of big Western/European names? Who they got? Name a big name. No, they haven't got no names. So they're pumping him up and giving him all the gimme fights. That's what they're doing. Chandler was like, what, 1-5 or something like 1-4 before going into this. So yeah, Paddy was the favourite. But regarding the McTapper situation, Paddy should have come out red hot in that ring announcement. Because that's a fight. Well, I don't know. Who would win that? The ground game. If Paddy goes on the ground, what's McTapper going to do? Nothing. Is it possible McTapper could just... Well, McTapper's always little mini Mendez. Little mini Mendez. McTapper won that fight in the end, but mini Mendez was all over him, on top of him. And that dude's 4 foot tall. Paddy is a big lightweight. And it was clear in the Chandler fight, Paddy's a big lightweight. Chandler looked like he was like a toddler trying to chase. He just couldn't get on top of him. He couldn't get on him at all, really. So Paddy's can't be too slow. If he was that slow, Chandler would have caught up with him at some point. He's not too slow. He's big for lightweight. I hate to say it, but you'd have to. McSniff's been out for 5 years. That said, the hype of the fight. Listen, McTapper's not going to get in there with Makhachev. He'll get proper ragdolled, and it probably isn't. To be honest, yeah, commercially speaking, McTapper versus Makhachev, and McTapper versus McSniffer versus Makhachev, and McSniff versus Paddy Pimblett. They're probably in a similar realm. Maybe more on the European side. In the US, Makhachev versus McSniff, that'll probably do bigger numbers overall because of the US market, but certainly in Europe. And McSniff ain't going to fight Makhachev. This could be, for example, McTapper was going to come back and fight Chandler, right? He didn't do that. The Chandler fight, yeah, Chandler's exciting. Chandler doesn't have the clout that Paddy has now, especially in Europe. This would be it could do a Wembley. As much as it pains me to say that, it could do a Croke Park or Wembley. I don't see why not. And it might have been enough. Paddy coming out and calling him out, and the fact it's a European derby, that might have been enough to get McSniffer's taste buds going. McSniffer might see enough there, like we all do. That's why McSniff backed Chandler. We all see something now. I'm not an expert in the UFC, but I don't see nothing magical that he's doing. Pimblett came out and said, Paddy Pimblett said, my IQ is second to Joe Joyce's. And it sounds good, doesn't it? When you're in there with... Look at his resume now. And I wouldn't know this beforehand. I did my research today, but I'm going to take you through it. So, his last win was this guy, who's 40 years old. Yeah, King Green. Never heard of him even once in my life. Never heard of him. King Green, 40 years old. He then fought before that. Who have we got? Come on, man. Don't cuck me. Tony Ferguson, 45 years old. Ferguson, he was old 5 years ago. He fell off bad 5 years ago. Why is Dana doing this for? Pumping Paddy up. He's like the what do you call it? The reunion tour. Yeah? Paddy Pimblett is fighting the reunion tour fighters. You know, in a band or whatever, a group, they split up like 20 years ago. And then they get back together to get some more coins, to cut the masses of their coins in a reunion. That's this kind of thing here. Chandler, reunion coins. Oh, let's come back. Obviously, he hadn't retired, but you get the point, man. They're over the hill. Well over the hill. 41, 40, 40, 40. You telling me in the UFC there ain't no young bucks? And the one time he did fight a young buck, what fight was it? Let's have a look. The one time Paddy Pimblett fought a young buck, and it was a nobody young buck at that. Let me find the guy. He went life and death in there. He went life and death. And this is what's important in sport. Well, I get it. If I was managing, if my name was Dana, would I put him in there with a proper fighter? Probably not. He's doing numbers. The UFC's fell off, bottom line, people. The UFC has fell off. You had the early era. People like, even me who doesn't watch it, I never watched it, but in the zeitgeist, you'd hear about Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz. Then you had kind of like Ronda Rousey, and that big juicy Brock Lesnar. Then you had Rousey, Brock Lesnar, John Jones. John Jones is more or less around there as well. In the just after Rousey was hot, and then John was knocking around. Then McSniff was knocking around, and since McSniff, there was a point in time where the UFC was going up and up and up. Every generation got bigger. Yeah. The Ronda Rousey generation was multiples bigger than the Tito Ortiz situation. The John Jones one, that was big. As big as Ronda, probably. McSniff was like another 5x on top of them lot. And since then, it's been a bunch of... honestly, it's been a bunch of towelheads, to tell the truth. Which is cool and that, but it's not doing it. It's not doing the numbers, bottom line. It's not doing the numbers. That's what it's not doing. So they're pumping this guy up with a bunch of stiffs. Look at this resume here. Green, never heard of him. Ferguson, 50 years old. Gordon, let's see how old... I think this might have been the fight he went life and death with. It might have been this Gordon dude, you know. I remember it being a white Donny. I think it was Gordon. He went life and death with Gordon. And it wasn't unanimous, that's fake news. He went life and death with Gordon. And what's the guy? I can't understand what he's doing as well. He's fighting once a year. In 2023, he fought once. In 2024, he fought once. In 2022, 2022 is active. That's when he started making shmoney. That's what must have happened. He had 3 fights in 2022, and since then, he's been having 1 fight a year. I mean, if I was him, I'd probably be doing the same. You don't want to... When Tapper was coming up, he knew he was red hot. He was fighting quite actively to prove himself. Paddy's got millions from Barstool and sponsorships, and he's probably breaking $1 million, not per fight, but he's doing probably a few mil in his last few fights collectively. When you're making that kind of money and you're a chancer, don't take my opinion. Paddy's on the way up, yeah. He hasn't had his career and he's easing off to fighting once a year. When you're on the way up and you're fighting once a year, that tells me he knows he's a chancer. Because you don't want it to come to an end and you think it probably can do, right? If he wasn't a chancer, you'd be saying, listen, I'm 30 right now, I'm red hot. Minimum, twice a year isn't even good. It's not even, twice a year, we complain about people fighting twice a year. Once a year is like, what? Really? You believe in yourself fighting once a year? And it's not like you're fighting once a year. 50-year-old Tony Ferguson. He'd been seen better days. Let's call a spade a spade. This green dude. So you're waiting a year to fight someone we don't know. But you're telling me that you're the second coming of Ahmed Ahmad, Ronda Rousey, John Jones, McSniffer. But fair play to him, man. He's doing better than me. He's nicking a living for himself, and he must be doing something right. Like I keep saying, I ain't trying to hate. This era's over the hill now as well. When you look at the rankings, where are they? When you look at the rankings, they're all, apart from Makachev, Oliveira's lost a bunch of times. Gaethje, they're top guys. At the end of the day, Gaethje's 36, Poirier's 36. Get him, and Dana will probably do this anyway. Get him in there. Pimblett's going to be number 7 now. Get him in there with some of these guys. Because Poirier's not a punk. Gaethje's not a punk. Oliveira. Any of these guys, to be fair. Makachev will toy with him. That's my base case. Yeah. How old's Makachev? Even if Makachev's 40, Paddy will do nothing. Seriously. Even if he is 50,000 years old. Let's have a look. 33. So he's going to be around. Unless he does a Habib and just ducks off. But I think he could have done that already. But he might go up in weight, they say. Apparently he doesn't struggle to make weight, though. Honestly, it might sound bad in me, yeah, but I just hope Paddy don't nick a belt somewhere. Like Makachev moves up and he's able to get a look in edgeways against one of these guys who's jaded. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't have bet that he'd have beat Chandler like McSniff didn't. Well, like McSniff did. So who knows if he can get off on one of these guys who's weathered. Poirier's weathered. Rightly or wrong, he's weathered. Holloway weathered. Gaethje weathered. Oliveira weathered. Never heard of this guy, though. Arman Tozuki. And who's this cat here? What's he done? Okay, he went life and death with Oliveira. Never heard of none of these guys. How is he number 1? I never heard of him. Never heard none of these names either. What? How's he number one? I guess because he went life and death with Oliveira. See what I mean? So Paddy, listen, they do say time is everything. As long as Makachev's there, he ain't going to win nothing. But if Makachev goes, Dana White could certainly engineer him. Fair play to him, man. If Dana's able to engineer, Makachev disappears to a higher weight or whatever, or retires magically out somewhere, Dana will find a way to get him the belt. Does it sit well with me? At the end of the day, it is a unified, well, it's an undisputed belt, so he'll have to fight the next best. No, man. I don't know why I feel... I don't know what it is. I just don't... Well, the resume, man. Let's call it the resume's sake. Yeah. They've got kid gloves on with him. That's how it feels to me. They've been propping him up to get into that position. And even if the McTapper fight happened, Paddy Pimblett versus McSniff, you'd probably get another win there. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, get him. Let's have a look now. Have a look, and it should be the next fight. But how long would that be? Another year from now? Another year from now, these men are 40 years old like the rest of them. Another year from now, Gaethje's 38, Poirier's 38. That's probably the play. Where's all the young guns? Interesting, you know. It's interesting the fall off of the UFC. There's just no... I can't... Look. Take Makhachev out. All these men are 50 years old. All of these men, I've never heard of half of them. And the other half are 50. Where's the young... Normally with sports, like, I don't know, if you look at the NFL or UK football or whatever, the quality of athlete, it's certainly, you can't say the athletes are less talented than they were 50 years ago or 10, 20 years ago. They're as good as, if not better in some cases. The UFC though, it's just a bit of a drought. Is it a case of no one's choosing to go into the UFC anymore because of the money situation? I wouldn't have thought so. There's loads of mixed martial arts gyms and whatnot. It's a popular sport now. Everyone's having a go at it. We just haven't seen, in the last 10 years, the proliferation of mixed martial arts gyms has gone through the roof. But yet, we're not seeing it translate into, there's no NFL draft kind of thing. We're not seeing none of the guys who are coming out of the draft, the UFC draft as such. We're not seeing any of them filter in and give us some young blood. Because Paddy, man, come on, people, man. Paddy, he's okay. He's okay. He's doing something right. I give him credit. He's doing something right. I can't tell you what he's doing something right. Is he a jack of all trades? And he does a bit of everything pretty well. But it's okay when you're 13, you're fighting 50-year-olds. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here, if I'm honest. My base case right now is with Paddy. Dana's got kid gloves on with him, and we're seeing a difference in 8 years. And it's not like boxing where a lot of boxers at 38, they haven't had really hard careers. But all these men, Chandler's had a real tough career. Proper wear and tear. It's not like Usyk at 38 in boxing where, how many times has he been hit? Never mind, Chandler's been knocked out a bunch, had his neck ripped off a bunch. Oliveira, the same situation. So they're not, if you calculate their CTE years, Chandler's probably 48. He's not 38, he's 48. Tony Ferguson is probably 55, 56, realistically. Yeah? Call me a liar. Who here thinks Tony Ferguson's neurological age is the same as his birth certificate of 41? Forget about it. He's probably 56. If they could look at his brain now, they'd tell you this is a brain of a 50s at best. It could be 60, right? Tony Ferguson. So you got Paddy Pimblett, who's had a cotton wool career, proper cotton wool career. He's 13. He's fighting people who are neurologically 60 years old or 50 years old. Chandler's probably 50. Call me a liar. Oh, IB, you hating? He's not 50. Really? You're telling me his neurological age is the same as his birth certificate? Stop lying. He's been whacked too many times. And when you're seeing it, it just can't get there. They're like a half. The Ferguson one was the worst. They was miles out. And that's why I hold back praise on Paddy. When I say he's doing something right, but I can't see it, it looks to me like he's fighting a bunch of old dudes. He doesn't look that quick himself. Sometimes you can watch fights and think, whoa, this dude's quick. What's that guy at 145? He's quick. I don't look at Paddy and think he's super quick. I see these other men a foot short, half a foot short, and that comes with, look at Mike Tyson. Yeah, he's 60, neurologically 65, from all the sniff and whatever else he's been doing. You see, he was short, half a foot short, same principle. Yes, Mike might be exaggerated because he really is really old. Same principle though. The Ferguson fight, Chandler too, he just couldn't get there, couldn't get on it. But anyway, fair play to Paddy. He's doing what he's supposed to do, I guess. He's beating him in there. We didn't think he'd win, although the bookies did have him favourite. And I think Paddy's always, that's the thing, as I mentioned as well. Paddy's always been the favourite, and I don't believe he's the favourite because he's that good, right? He's the favourite because they're matching him with stiffs, is why he's the favourite. It's not like, oh, he's the favourite because he's the second coming of Muhammad Aymar John Jones. He's in there with Chandler, who's washed. That's why he's the favourite. When they're going to put him in there as an underdog, we don't know. I'd be intrigued to see the odds, though, of Paddy versus Poirier or Gaethje, though. And I hate to say it, I don't know, the way things are going these times, he might get the better of them. I wouldn't like to think so, though. Too much experience. But again, they're long in the tooth, man. Gaethje's had a bunch of wars. Max Holloway, bunch of wars. The other dude, Poirier, bunch of wars. So it feels a bit unfair, if I'm honest. You got Paddy in there with a bunch of old dudes. Get him in there with Makhachev, man. Now, that's what my advice would be. If you want to see real competitiveness, let's see you in there with Makhachev. Let's see how good you really are. That's the part I'm making. And listen, if he goes in there and he somehow wins against Makhachev, I'll get on my knees and say, man, you're the second coming of Muhammad Aymar John Jones. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Until then, the rest of them, come on. You can't get no credit for them, man. They've lost and they've won. Yeah, we respect it in the UFC. People actually getting in there and fighting, but it's all over the place. On any given day, these men can lose. Makhachev, he that guy. Yeah, he that guy. So don't hang around, Paddy, for another 2 years fighting these off-key names, waiting for Makhachev to move up. Don't do that. Get in there with him now. Test yourself. That's why I rate, to be fair, Tom Aspinall. Because unlike Paddy, yeah, Paddy could have been banging the drum for Makhachev. He could have been saying, I'm here now. Give me Makhachev. I don't want McSniff. McSniff's finished. Yeah, I want to prove myself. Paddy don't really do that. He calls out all these other random names like Gaethje and yeah, Gaethje might be high ranking him, but we know what the play is there. War-torn. Gaethje's war-torn. He don't want nothing to do with Makhachev. Tom Aspinall at the same time, slightly different circumstances because Aspinall's a higher ranking, but Aspinall, he actually wants to fight John Jones. He's not saying, oh, John, you know, I'm not really fussed and I'm just waiting for John to give the belt up. He wants to challenge himself against the best. I respect that. I don't get them vibes from Paddy. His resume doesn't show that. He's fighting once a year against bums and old people. Yeah? Reunion tour individuals. Aspinall wants it to prove himself, and I respect that. Yeah, John shit himself, which is not cool. I got John. If John gets in the ring or the cage, I got him winning that fight, but still, he shit himself. But I'm like, I can't juck and jive and jigaboo for John Jones. It's a sad situation. This dude, Pimblett, Paddy Pimblett, get in there with Makhachev, man. Let's see what's really up. Let's see what you're really doing, because we're not going to know, in my opinion. We're not going to know what you're really doing until you're in there in Makhachev. That's the test. And that's what you should want to do anyway. Anyway, people, listen. Fair play to Paddy. He's doing what he's doing. He's making money. He's beating old dudes. Let's see how it plays out. Let me know your thoughts. People, smash the like button, subscribe, like off the bell, 100%. There's no doubt about this one. People, stop it. Bosh.